Hi everyone, welcome to Medicine Note YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to see about cerebrum. It forms the largest part of the brain. This cerebrum forms the largest part of the brain and contains two hemispheres which separates by the corpus callosum. It contains two hemispheres which separates corpus callosum. Each hemisphere contains a cavity called lateral ventricle. In that hemisphere, there is a cavity is known as lateral ventricle. Middle surface is separated by flux cerebelli which has two dural venous sinus. The middle surface is separated by the flux cerebelli which has two dural venous sinus which are superior sagittal sinus and inferior sagittal sinus. There are three surfaces, three poles and four borders in the cerebrum. The three surfaces are supralateral surface, which is a convex related to the cranial wall. This is related to the cranial wall, which is near the cranial wall. So it is supralateral surface, and the medial surface is the wall which is flat ventricle and has ventricle in it. It has flat as well as ventricle in it, and it separates the opposite cerebri by longitudinal fissure and flux cerebelli. The inferior surface is irregular, which is separated into orbital surface as well as tentorial surface. The two parts are divided by the lateral sulcus. The three poles are frontal pole, occipital pole and temporal pole. The four borders are supromedial border, separates the supralateral surface and the medial surface. This supromedial border separates supralateral and the medial surface. The infralateral border separates supralateral as well as inferior surface. And the anterior part of the border, this anterior part of the border called superciliary border. There is a depression in the infralateral border 5 cm in front of the occipital bone known as pre-occipital notch. In front of the occipital bone there is a notch which is known as pre-occipital notch, which is present 5 cm below the occipital bone, in front of the occipital bone. Medial orbital border separates the medial surface from the orbital surface. This separates the medial surface and orbital surface. The medial occipital surface separates the medial surface from the tentorial surface. This is the diagram which the central sulcus is located in back of just behind the midpoint of the cerebrum. This separates the frontal lobe and parietal lobe. This central sulcus ends in the lateral sulcus. Each cerebral hemisphere is divided into four lobes: frontal, temporal, occipital and parietal. This one is frontal, this one is parietal, and this one is the temporal, and this one is the occipital. The central sulcus arises supromedial border just behind the midpoint of the cerebrum. As I said above in the image, which arises behind the center, which arises in the supromedial border just behind the midpoint of the cerebrum, and this sulcus separates the frontal lobe and parietal lobe, and this ends above the lateral sulcus. Now the lateral sulcus is an orbital surface and the tentorial surface. It has orbital surface as well as tentorial surface. It separates the orbital surface and tentorial surface and divides into two sulcus, which is horizontal ramus of the lateral sulcus as well as ascending ramus of the lateral sulcus. This will be discussed in the another image. This is the lateral sulcus, in which there is a horizontal ramus of the lateral sulcus as well as ascending ramus of the lateral sulcus is placed here, and there are some of the gyrus present related to it. I will describe it in the last image. Parieto-occipital sulcus. Sulcus is a medial surface. In medial surface, it cuts the supromedial border above the 5 cm in front of the occipital bone. This cuts the supromedial border in front of the occipital bone, which is 5 cm in front. Parieto-occipital notch. In infralateral border 5 cm front the occipital bone. This is the image of the cerebrum. This is the central sulcus which is just behind the central point, midpoint of the cerebrum, and just front of it is precentral sulcus, just behind it is postcentral sulcus. In parietal lobe there is an sulcus which forms supraparietal lobule as well as infraparietal lobule, and in frontal lobe there is two sulcus which is superior frontal sulcus as well as inferior frontal sulcus, which provides a gyrus which is superior frontal gyrus, middle frontal gyrus and inferior frontal gyrus. This is the one which I have said. This is the anterior horizontal part of the ramus, and this is the anterior ascending ramus. In between it there is a gyrus. Here it is known as pars triangularis, and here is pars opercularis, pars orbicularis. These are the gyrus and these are the sulcus located here. In temporal area there is two sulcus which is superior temporal sulcus as well as inferior temporal sulcus. This forms superior temporal gyrus, middle temporal gyrus and inferior temporal gyrus. In occipital area there is superior occipital gyrus which is formed by the lunate sulcus, and the lateral occipital sulcus is present here, and the inferior occipital gyrus is present here. This is the image of the cerebrum. Thank you. For more videos, please do like, share and subscribe. If you have any doubt in it, please do comment it. Thank you.